Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Hey everyone, you're listening to SchooPed podcast with me, Suchitra. And today we have with us a very special guest, Miss Stella Ikhnana, who has over 10 years of experience in the education sector, and she is passionate about building plans to enable customer success. Stella was born in Iraq but immigrated to the US when she was just 6 years old, and she's currently living in Chicago. Stella loves learning, and if being a student was a profession, she would totally sign up for that job as well. The only sport she loves watching is tennis, and attending a Wimbledon match is on her bucket list. Am I right, Stella?
That's correct. Thank you so much for having me. I still haven't seen the latest movie about Venus and Serena, but I will get there.
Sure. So, for today's podcast, we'll be talking about careers beyond teaching for the educators out there. And I'm sure our listeners out there would be eagerly waiting for your insights on this. So, let's dive into the Q&A, shall we?
Of course.
Yeah. So deciding to quit a job is a tough decision, and especially for educators out there leaving the classroom and doing a job switch is quite heartbreaking, right? But we've also seen, like in a recent statistic shared by the EdWeek Research Center, it clearly indicates that teachers are now planning to quit more than even before the pandemic had hit us. So, in your opinion, why do you think teachers are quitting, or the ones who have made up their mind to quit are actually thinking? What's going on in their head?
Yeah, great stats. I was a part of that. I resigned in July 2021, and I've been thinking about it for years. I think the biggest thing is we are not thought of as experts in our field. And what I mean is that we are not heard, seen, and valued by the educational system. I'm not saying it's a particular one principal or one district is doing this. It's education as a whole is shifting their priorities, and it's not really aligning with the people that get into it to, what are we there for? To work with kiddos and help them be the best they can. I would say that's about 10% of my real job as an educator. And there's so much other that is now required of me: paperwork, assessments, things that I don't particularly like. And that's what education in the US, I can just speak of, is going towards. And so that's where I think a lot of misalignment is happening.
All right, sure. And also, like educators who take up teaching, they love students, but they may also feel not really fulfilled with their career as a classroom teacher, and they want to explore other career options because they might be having varied interests into like media, design, technology, and of course, learning. So, what are the other career alternatives are out there for educators who want to stay in the education field but wish to leave the classroom?
Of course, there's a lot. I personally thought I could be a trainer, an instructional designer, and that was it. I was wrong. There's a ton. Do lots of research into SaaS, which stands for software as a service. Literally any topic you're interested in, there's a SaaS company for it. Simply means you subscribe to something. And there are people in the space that need to keep that company going. So there's EdTech SaaS, there's SaaS for health, there's SaaS for meditation, there's SaaS for anything you're interested in. A few of the things that I literally did not know were jobs, something called community manager. No idea that was a thing. I think teachers are hesitant to go into sales. But if you think about it, we sold education to customers, which were our students. And I would say they were the toughest clients one could have. And, recruiting is a big thing as well that doesn't require a certificate, and people from very different industries and backgrounds go into it. So the sky is, there's no limit. I created my own consulting business, anyone can be a consultant. And the funniest thing is I never knew that. I asked someone, oh, what certificate do I need to do that? And they said, you just call yourself a consultant. I said, okay, cool. So I think as educators, we're trained on getting certifications, getting licenses, getting extra degrees. That is not the case out anywhere else.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for, talking about various careers that are out there. I'm sure the educators who are tuned into us today would find that quite insightful. And also, Stella, since you've also mentioned EdTech, right? So online learning has been for quite some time. It's just the pandemic had acted as a catalyst in making it a billion-dollar industry, right? Since all the students were relying heavily on the digital learning. So what are the other career transitioning possibilities do you see for educators in the EdTech industry, especially? Do you think educators can team up with the tech teams in the industry and make a difference?
Absolutely. I think what's neat about jumping into a field that you have expertise, I call it boots on the ground. What better person to be part of this ed tech field than you? You are their end user, you are their customer. And I think the biggest transition is learning the industry lingo and being able to show that you had a book of business, that you ran QBRs. So speak their language. It has lots of acronyms. So does I love free things that are out there. So simply research things and you will come across a lot, and ask questions, meet up with people. That's how I learned so much, asking people that are currently in the roles, what does their day-to-day look like?
Wow, that's great. So Stella, what do you think about educators bringing change to the EdTech industry?
Great question. I think being people that were in the field, I call it boots on the ground. They have first knowledge of what was going on within the classrooms, what are the biggest challenges. So I definitely believe it could be done, and just bringing, I call it the human into ed tech. Of course, it's a corporation that runs off of revenue. However, shifting more into kind of a human approach, I think the emotional intelligence, empathy, active listening skills that educators have are desperately needed in the ed tech space. And as long as you're willing to learn, looking on YouTube, looking on LinkedIn Learning, I think there's definitely a place for you. It takes a while to find that place, but there is a place.
Sure. Thanks a lot for throwing some light on that aspect. And Stella, there are quite a few transferable skills that teachers do acquire through their journey. Like you said, assessment, data collection, managing resources, managing ambiguity, working with cross-functional teams. So these are the skills that teachers acquire. So how do you think teachers can take these skills and apply to their new roles? And also, what are the additional skills that they need to know before entering into a different job role?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is storytelling. The biggest question that I hear recruiters and hiring managers ask is like, describe a time where something didn't go right, a failure. Describe a time, how do you organize yourself? In what ways do you prioritize customer needs? And how do you work best? So, and you can find all these questions online. People post them, top ed tech questions, and have an arsenal of stories. And so what I did is I created a Google Doc, and I would just write down all the things, use percentages and data as much as possible. I took a learner doing this to this. kind of avoid certain words. I do not use the word student. I say learner. I don't say teacher. I say educator. I don't say coworkers. I say cross-functional team. So it's simply, I'm still telling the truth. I'm using the words that they jive with, because if I throw out IEP and LPSS and PLC, they don't know what that is. High stakes testing, they don't care. So what does the company value? And kind of show how you are that person and how can you solve their need? So I like to ask questions before I get talking to companies, and I ask them, what's your biggest challenge? What are you all working on right now? What's missing from your team? And then I write down their answers, and then I try to show how I'm the person that can help them solve that problem. And if I don't know, then that's when I start doing my research. How, and you can also look those things up. And most of the time, I know the answer because I've worked with humans, and humans are very predictable.
Yeah, sure. That was really interesting, Stella. And also, Stella, so it's being said that educators are the best managers out there because they manage the precious resource that is children. So why is it that the corporate is not stepping up and hiring them as much as they should? What's stopping them actually?
That's $1 million question. I wrote a post on this yesterday, and I said, if you haven't worked with educators, you are missing out. We have grit, perseverance, emotional intelligence, empathy. And then I called out the entire SaaS industry, and I said, empathy, something you all preach about, but not too many people are showing right now to career changers. Is it everyone else is wrong? Or do you need to kind of self-reflect on your hiring processes? So I put it out there. One person did say in a private message that they believe there's a lot of elitism going on currently, or an increase of it. I call it the Mean Girls effect. I don't know if you're aware of the movie Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Tech right now seems to me like you can't sit with us. And I don't jive with that because I was a special education teacher. I preach inclusivity, and I don't like that feeling. So the places that treat you not so hot, don't work there, run away from them. But I know people have landed in roles that they really, really love. There are not as many companies as I thought, but it's okay. We will continue to uncover them. And it's okay to start with a startup, because sometimes the bigger known companies have a lot more hoops to jump through, have 5 to 7 round interviews. That is an emotional roller coaster that I want no part of. And so think about yourself. What can you mentally handle? And ask those questions. What does the hiring process look like? And they'll be able to tell you. And if they don't, that's also a red flag.
True. That's really interesting to know. Like, teachers do need to take their power back and step back and think, oh, do I really want to get into this or not? Yeah. Also, Stella, like, teachers find it really hard to navigate this career transitioning phase, especially when the system is set up in such a way that it's kind of devaluing their efforts, right? So what are the resources out there for the educators to rely on during this transition period? What support can they look forward to?
Yeah, something I did not utilize when I was a teacher, completely free, LinkedIn. I cannot say enough about LinkedIn. It's free. I did the 30-day free trial, and then I stopped it after 30 days. I was able to do 3 to 4 LinkedIn learning classes and put those up on my profile, and just connecting with communities. So I found tons of customer success, which is the field I'm pivoting into. And so I jumped on a few that I really enjoy: Gain, Grow, Retain, CS Insider, CS Ladies. And what's great is when you go to these events, most of the people think like you. because they joined the event or the community for that reason. And so building a community, I think, is huge. I found everyone that I ever need to talk to on there. And what's wonderful is no matter where they are, you can connect with them. So I have friends from all over the world now. And I'm like, very cool. I need to, once the situation gets resolved and we can fly around internationally, I've got lots of people to meet up.
That's amazing, like building up a community for yourself and, relying on them every now and then for advices. They act as like your emotional support at this moment, right? True. So Stella, we've seen your profile and we've noticed that you've successfully transitioned from the role of a classroom educator to an education consultant as well. So what advice would you give to all the educators out there? I mean, what's the first step that they need to take to make this career transition happen?
I would say it's a lot of self-reflection. It's the cliche, what do you find joy in? What would you do if you weren't getting paid? Really take time to think about that. When I started thinking, what do I like about teaching? It was the relationship, meeting with the kiddos, meeting with the colleagues, building those connections. And then I started learning I could do that elsewhere. I don't have to stay in education to help humans, meet a goal and assist them and say, whoa, that's a lofty goal. Are we sure we can do that? What is our baseline and how can we get there? And there's tons of roles for whatever it is that you enjoy to do, there's a role for it. So really start with yourself. It's an inner kind of thing. And then identify people who are doing that thing and ask them, what does their day-to-day look like? Because I like meeting up with people. So I ask, is this a lot of emails? Is it a lot of phone calls? Is it a lot of virtual meetings? Can you just describe your day? And sometimes they'll say, oh, I'm on the phone a lot, or I'm doing emails a lot. And that will help guide me because you can't just say, I want to get into sales. That's a big thing. So you really want to narrow down what it is that you like about a particular industry.
Yeah, and also via LinkedIn, we can reach out to people who are already doing it. And I think the folk there is, decent enough to respond and guide us as well. Yeah. So Stella, a career transition is nothing but full of challenges, right? And especially for educators and now with the pandemic scenario and stuff. So looking back at your journey, reflecting on your journey, what do you think are the key takeaways that one has to keep in their mind? What do you have to tell them, like an overall key takeaway, what they got to understand about it?
I would say always network. No matter what you think, you don't have any role until you see the offer letter, and then until you negotiate, and then until you sign it. So I've heard of a lot and I've experienced a lot where a role gets hyped up. Oh, you've got this. I'm going to refer you. I will do this. They loved you. Something fell apart. And what I did, I devoted myself to one or two companies and I'm like, yes, I got this. I got this. I wasted time not networking with other people because I was so confident in that, and that resulted in nothing for whatever reason. So even when you land a role or you think you've landed a role, maybe it's not true. So wait until you get that offer letter, until you sign it. That's really when you're in. And then after you get the role, continue to network, because maybe after the honeymoon period sets in, you start realizing, oh, something's not jiving here. So always, always, always network and keep up with people as much as you can.
Oh, that's, I think, even, calling oneself an introvert can't be an excuse anymore. You'll have to put yourself out there if you really want to do this career switch. So that marks the end of our conversation. Stella, would you like to add anything else?
I'd just like to say thank you for this opportunity. And I think the biggest thing is just think about achieving one goal a day. So is it connecting with 2 people a day? Then make it 4 people, then make it 6 people. So set small goals for yourself every day, every week, and kind of see your progression towards that instead of thinking, I need a job tomorrow. It takes time. So give yourself that grace and realize we all have a course and we'll get there.
It was great having you on SchooPed's podcast today, Stella. Thanks a lot for your valuable time with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also I'd like to thank all our listeners for tuning into our podcast today. Stay tuned for more. Thank you, Stella. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Bye.